Now let's talk about one of the most important lectures, and it's choosing your food. Even though the caloric surplus is very important if you want to build a muscle mass, important also is where do those calories come from. The fact that your weight machine shows you have put on doesn't mean that you have put on muscles. So how to recognize you put on the muscles and not fat? You always put on some fat with muscles, of course, but how much fat you put on depends on your training, eating, if you have enough regeneration, especially sleep, etc. If you gain muscles, you should see it in a mirror, although it's not always easy to recognize. A little more muscles are not that much seen if you look to the mirror every day. Much better indicator is increase of your strength. As we all probably know, the strength depends on how much muscles we have and how we can use them using our brain. If the weight machine is showing you have put on like 2 kilograms or 4.6 pounds and your strength hasn't increased, it's probably fat. However, if you are able to add a weight plate more, then it's muscles. Your food should take little place on your plate, and at the same time it should have possibly highest nutritional value, so what you eat contains a higher volume of proteins. A meal that has a higher calorical value and no proteins is lame meal. There is as much of the good food as much money you have for it. However, even with a little money, you can achieve nice results if you really want to. Since this will be watched also by people with limited financial budget, I'm not gonna be talking about some great recipes and foods which appear in fitness and healthy lifestyle magazines. There are a lot of foods which are nutritious and full of nutrition and cheap, but unfortunately often not so tasty. If you are just beginning with bodybuilding and until now you used to eat normally, eating with aim to gain muscles is much different, especially in quantity of the food. If you liked potatoes or rice until now, it's quite possible that you will hate this food soon. The reason is that those 3 cups of rice and slice of bread won't be enough for you like it used to be. That mostly refers to poor people who are not used to eat too much. You will have to eat pretty much food to exceed the caloric output. If you don't eat enough, you won't be gaining the muscles. You will only spend money and energy without the results. It will go fast to begin with. You will put on the weight and your body will be changing fast. The bigger you will be, the slower your progress will be. The more muscles you will gain, the more you will have to eat, so you can gain another muscles. With the accumulating muscles, you will also have a higher energy outlay, so the more mass you will have, the hardest is to get another one. It's good to alternate the foods so that the eating doesn't get too stereotyped. After some time you will be finding new ways how to make your meal tastier so you can get it in your stomach. It's easier to eat when you have some sauce with it, ketchup, for example. Even though, in consequence, it only needlessly fills you up, and besides there is a lot of chemicals in the both ketchups, which you surely don't want to eat. However, if you can't eat the meal without it and you have to add a little of some junk, okay, just do so, never mind. The best is to have a homemade ketchup or to make a vegetable salad with your meal. There are many ways how to make your meal taste better. Try to do it wisely. Not to eat rice with a bowl of stewed fruit. This all may act on you a little demotivating, but this is my own experience, and I think that everyone who has been doing the bodybuilding for a longer time would agree with me. I try to choose foods which even an average earning man can afford. They are divided according to a primary content of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. So, what to receive proteins from? First we got here chicken breasts. Chicken breasts contain a high content of proteins in 100 grams, around 22 grams, and a little content of fat. However, it is good to flavor it well, either with some spice or herbals, because those breasts itself taste lame, and soon you would get fed up of it. Pork meat. It contains a little bit more of fat than chicken meat, and so is more calorical, but still good for bulking. However, try to choose less fatty parts. Beef meat, very tasty if you use the right heat treatment. Also great if you want to gain muscles, because it contains also the creatine that supplies your muscles with energy. It also has a high content of proteins in 100 grams, or 3.5 ounces if you like. Beef meat is perhaps the most favorite meal in bodybuilding. Turkey breasts. Minimum of fat and maximum of proteins. Ideal and I think much tastier than chicken breasts. Fish. Apart from the proteins, they contain also healthy fats, or the omega-3. However, you have to pay attention to some frozen fish which have more water than meat. Especially with those cheap ones, it happens quite often. As a side dish, you can have potatoes with suit with fish more than rice. Next we got here eggs. One egg contains at an average 6 grams or 0.2 ounces of proteins. 3 grams in egg white and 3 grams in yolk. The one who throws the yolks away should really think about it, what he is actually throwing away. Because eggs are also a good source of the unsaturated fatty acids. You can eat as many as you like, meant that if you will eat like 10 eggs a day, it's absolutely alright. They have good use if you cook them in water or another heat treatment. If you want to eat them raw, thinking of a better use of proteins, it's exactly the opposite. Curd. Even though it's a milk product, buying it pays off, unless you have money for nutrition supplements. It contains much proteins and also minimum of fat if you buy the defatted one. So it's basic and cheap protein sources. There are tons of protein sources, but these were some basic and not expensive, and for this reason I told you about these ones. Now let's talk about carbohydrates. So what to receive carbohydrates from? First we got potatoes. Potatoes are a good source of the carbohydrates, but what is even better, according to me, they taste far better than rice. The disadvantage is that they are quite filling up, what may mean that you won't get as much carbohydrates from them as from rice. They also contain fiber, what is another advantage. However, different heat treatments have a different carbohydrates contained in 100 grams. Check out some schedules on the internet and choose according to it, or what tastes you the best. Rice. I can't imagine a bulking without it. Rice is an absolute base as long as you need to get the needed daily amount of carbohydrates. 100 grams or 3.5 ounces of rice contain over 70 grams of carbohydrates, what is probably the best ratio between what you eat to what you have from it. However, buy rice that is advanced packed in small plastic sacks. The reason is that some common cheap rice packs enlarge its capacity by the same weight much more after cooking than those sack-packed rice kinds. You would fill up needlessly. Cereals. If you think I mean to put a little bit of them into your yogurt or something like that, forget it. I'm talking about the whole pack, which shouldn't be for you more than 5 portions. That means if you have a half kilogram or 1 pound of cereal pack, it is 100 grams or 3.5 ounces in one portion, as long as you want to have solo source of carbohydrates in one meal. Cereals contain around 55 to 60 grams or around 2 ounces carbohydrates in 100 grams. Very good source of fibers as well. Wholemeal baked goods. Not everything what is dark is wholemeal, and doesn't mean at all that it is wholemeal just because it has seeds. The wholemeal baked goods are made of wholemeal seeds of cereal, even with the bran, or at least for the most part. Even though the wholemeal baked goods are darker, or some of most of them, dark baked good may be fake. Therefore, check out its content. And why actually to eat wholemeal baked goods and not those white ones? Because they don't have such waste for insulin increasing, and therefore sugar doesn't get into the blood so fast, and that is before and after a workout good. Wholemeal baked goods contain more fiber than the white ones, what is another advantage. Next source is lentils. Apart from approximately 55 grams or 1.9 ounces carbohydrates, contain high level of proteins. A disadvantage is that from a little amount of lentils turn after cooking into a big load. Wholemeal flour recipes. A good example are pancakes. You can put in them a sugar-free house-made jam and milled nuts. Add some proteins with it and your meal is done. Totally best for making pancakes is a spelt wheat flour you can easily make pancakes of. Fruit. What course would this be if I forget about fruits? Even though it's quite often forgotten, it is good for organism acidity reduction, but also as a good source of various vitamins. The increased acidity of organism is quite dangerous, and by eating fruit you can cut it down. Focus especially on citrus fruits, and by the way, the fact that the lemon is sour, it doesn't mean that it causes the acidity, so don't get confused by that. Vegetable, you can eat it as supplement with main dishes. If you make a good salad, it will be easier to eat your meal. Besides, vegetables are alkaline, so reduce the high organism acidity. However, it's not needed to overdo eating it, so you wouldn't eat more of vegetable than the meat. Glucose, the fastest source of carbohydrates. You should use it before and right after your workout because it gets into the blood quickly, and that is what you need around the training time. By the way, don't confuse it with classic fruit sugar, fructose, and avoid eating that one. Now, what to receive fats from? Olive oil, excellent source of healthy fats. The best is to put it in vegetable salad, but you can drink it also solo, only to add the needed fats, of course. There are various kinds which differ by quality. The highest quality one is the extra virgin, then virgin, and at last the less quality is normal ordinary olive oil. Pick the first two ones. Fish contain omega-3 fatty acids, the fats which belong to those healthy. Also, fish helps to fix a lower testosterone level by a natural way. Nuts are high on fats, so you don't need to eat a lot of them if you need to complement the fats. The best choice are almonds because they have a high level of magnesium. Eggs have the healthy and also the unhealthy fats, and that is good because the body needs both kinds. Cheese, it's not one of those best choices, but a piece of cheese now and then doesn't kill anyone. Most of them are high on proteins and fats, even though the unhealthy ones, but those are needed too. You can receive fats also from meat, especially pork and beef have a higher part of fat among meats. Bacon, number 1 in fats content. You don't have to absolutely avoid it. You can have for breakfast with eggs and wholemeal baked goods, for instance. So with this food, I guarantee you will gain muscle mass. It's relatively cheap and good sources of protein, carbohydrates and fats. So grab some of these tips and make it happen.